This is a Headless Professor video response to Atwater's argument that since creation is impossible, so then a creator God is likewise impossible. On its surface, this appears like a modus ponens. If creation is impossible, then a creator is impossible. Well, the idea raised by Atwater is not really new, but it's a very clever and clear modern statement of it, and very well presented by Ms. King. The idea goes back to the ancient Jains, at least 2,500 years ago. This was a religious movement in India which said that no deities exist, not a creator deity, and none of the deities mentioned in the Vedas or the Upanishads. In the Greco-Roman world, this notion of creation out of nothing had its own special Latin term, ex nihilo, creation out of nothing. And many of the theologians of the first centuries of Christianity accepted the idea that God created out of nothing, but not all of them did. Others thought that God had the material of the universe to work with in the beginning. And the same thing can be said of Jewish theologians. In Islam, the idea of ex nihilo creation is pretty clearly stated in some of the surahs, such as 1967. However, there are certain religious denominations that have clearly rejected the concept of ex nihilo creation. A good example would be the Mormon prophet Joseph Smith, who said that matter is eternal and is not created or destroyed, but God has organized that matter, and in that sense, he is a creator. Now, one of the things I noticed about the Atwater video was that there was a heavy reliance upon the dictionary. So I've got my dictionary here. It's Webster's also. It's very big indeed. But let's just look at some terms and clarify and see if the dictionary is really saying God is impossible. Now, we look at many of the definitions of creation, and one does say bringing the world into existence. But there is no direct implication or statement that this act is impossible. Now, if you look at some of the other things in the dictionary, which I regard as impossible, the dictionary also implies this. For example, clairvoyance, this so-called psychic ability to perceive objects beyond barriers. The dictionary calls this a power attributed to some persons who are said to be able to discern objects that are concealed. Or let's take another psychic power that some people may claim, levitation. To levitate means to rise or float in the air, allegedly through supernatural power. So notice the words attributed or allegedly. These words are not found in the dictionary with creation. Indeed, let's look at the term creator. One of the many definitions of creator given in the dictionary is the almighty maker of all things. Now, there's no implication that this is an impossibility. However, when you look at some other definitions, we see that this is indeed something the dictionary seems to accept. For example, the definition of God himself as creator, infinite spirit, almighty. And once again, the dictionary does not say this is an impossibility or God allegedly exists. Notice how the dictionary handles some other terms. A dragon, for example, a mythical, monstrous animal, or a unicorn, a legendary animal. Words like legendary and mythical are not applied to Almighty God. God is referred to as a spirit. Well, what exactly is a spirit? An animating principle. So God is animating. He is full of might. He is full of creative power. How might we understand that? Well, let's look at the definition of energy. Power. Yes, God is supposed to be all-powerful. And power is the ability to do work, to make things. Okay, how do we understand then energy as making things? Well, let's turn to Albert Einstein and his equation E equals mc squared. Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. It wasn't until Enrico Fermi did some experiments at the University of Chicago in the early 1940s that we really understood how to take matter and create energy from it. Perhaps God can go in the other direction. He can take his infinite spiritual energy and use that to create matter, transform the energy into matter. So in that sense, is God creating out of nothing? Well, that depends upon your definition of nothing. Perhaps he creates matter where matter did not exist before. But he's creating it out of something, his infinite spiritual energy.